9 a.m. I will call the meeting of the Columbia 911 Communications District Board of Directors regular meeting to order. We kind of just did roll call, but officially we have Mr. Anderson, Mr. Heimuller, myself, and Mr. Holsey on. So far, Shelley, did she just pop in there? Oh, I thought I heard somebody. Okay, we will roll on here. Do we have any public comment this morning? Okay. Going once. Okay, hearing none. I'd like to give people an opportunity to click on the right things and when they're doing this remote. So it looks like we don't have any public comment. We will move on to any additions to the agenda for today's meeting. Does anybody have anything that needs to be added?
None from staff.
Okay, commissioners or board members? Looks good. All right. We'll move on to the approval of the January 27, 2022 regular meeting and the February 1st, 2022 special meeting minutes. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review those.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve both of those minutes as presented.
I'll second.
Excellent. It's been moved and seconded to approve both sets of minutes as presented in our packets. Any discussion? Okay. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We'll move us right into financial reports. Anything to report, Nancy? Anything out of the ordinary you'd like to share? Or?
Nope, everything's looking good. Our tax revenue is coming in really strong this time of year, so everything looks good.
Good news. Good news. Thanks for your awesome reports. They're always really good. I know you probably think that nobody looks at them, but
Thank you.
very helpful. All right, we have the acceptance of the budget variance next on the agenda.
A move.
I'll second.
Excellent. It's been moved and seconded to approve the budget variance as presented in our packets. Any further discussion on that? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the approving the budget variance signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. All right. Approval of expenditures.
Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead and move to approve the expenditures going from check 30615 through 30672, including electronic payments and transfers, for a grand total of $236,015.87.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the expenditures as listed for check number 30615 through 30672, including electronic payments and transfers for a total of $236,015.87. Is there any discussion?
I just had a question on check number 30638 for Mike or Nathan or whomever. It says maintenance on 5th position. Can you clarify what that was for?
Mike, that's for the Motorola.
So if you recall, the state cut funding to the PSAPs, and when we renewed our maintenance agreement with Motorola, who is the owner of the Vesta, they are the manufacturer of Vesta, the 911 equipment. When we renewed that maintenance agreement with the state of Oregon and Motorola, there was an outstanding portion, which is ours, for position 5, which we are responsible to pay for.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the expenditures? I did have one, check number 30662, the professional services for Stephen Fulmer. I think I remember, that name sounds familiar, I just don't remember exactly what that was for.
So Stephen is our professional life coach for the agency, and he's doing resiliency training and specifically working this year with our new management or new leadership staff, Danelle, Alex, Wendy, and continuing working with the admin staff.
Thank you. I thought that was the one, but I couldn't quite remember. So. Any other questions? Hearing no further questions, everybody in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Those opposed, same sign. All right, sounds like motion carries. There might have been some people talking at the same time, but looks like we got a 4-0. Does that sound right to everybody?
It does, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, Budget Committee appointment, zones 2 and 3.
This is for Henry Zone, so Steve Reed, Henry, would you please contact him and see if he'd like to serve again? And Sean, yours is Casey Wheeler currently.
Okay.
I'd be happy to.
Thank
Will
you.
do. Reach out to them.
And if we can have those for approval at our next meeting, that would be perfect.
Got it. You betcha. Okay. No further info on that. Operations Manager report.
Hello. So some hiring updates. We have one trainee that was just signed off on February 18th and who's doing great. We have a new hire that's right in the final processes, and we anticipate her starting training at the end of March. We're in the middle of a lead promotion process that's going to be filled mid-March. As far as inquiries go, we've had 2, one external that resulted in training, one internal that's still pending. Other operations updates is that we're developing spring mandatory training curriculum. Alex is our new training coordinator. He's working really hard on that, and revamping our in-house academy. We're starting planning and preparation for Dispatcher Week in April, which is always exciting, and those are my operations updates.
Thank you very much, Danelle. Welcome. I say welcome. You've been here, but welcome to the ops. Welcome to the board meeting and the ops update.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
All right, Nathan, Technical Manager.
We renewed our Pacific Office contract a couple months ago, and we finally got the new big boy printers installed, and they're running well. Previous board meeting, I was in API training and learning how to build custom CAD interfaces and just things for dispatchers to use in CAD. For years, I've been creating an interface for GPS devices for Scappoose fire so they can track their rigs when they're out in no man's land where there's no coverage or anything using satellite. Network security, we're working with the Magix group to install the network analyzers. That's getting closer to being done. I just got the computer images, so I just need to image those and get them all ready to go.
Nathan, question for you on those GPS devices. Are those new to the, I guess, the district, or do we have those in other sites called Scappoose?
Scappoose had purchased them and then approached me a while back, but at the time there was no way, to my knowledge, to integrate them without paying about $30,000 to TriTech. So after the API class, their new API allows us to do a lot more than the old system did. And so I was able to start getting data going in there for their GPSs.
And so to follow up on that also, so CAD, naturally, the original CAD system consumes and distributes GPS. That's actually how the whole system works. It runs off the map system. And AVL is a component of both the mobile and CAD. So as a call taker takes in information, it's plotting an address or a location. It coordinates those GPS coordinates, and technically it can locate the closest unit, again by GPS, and dispatch a unit to the closest unit to a call. That requires the units that have MDCs, mobile data computers, in their vehicles, that those signals have an antenna and can be transmitted back to CAD. So we have multiple agencies that do that inherently in their MDC products. Scappoose Fire was a one-off. They didn't want MDCs, traditional MDCs. They were using iPads, still are using iPads. And this is a workaround for those agencies that don't have true MDCs with AVL. So Nathan is a brainiac, and he is able to write his own interface to incorporate those satellite AVL units and get it back into CAD and back out.
Work.
Yep. Well done, Nathan.
Any other questions for Nathan? All right, let's move into old business.
Old business, there's nothing new to report on Dixie Mountain. I did have communications with the FAA since our last meeting, just confirming we're still here, but updating them on why we're pausing. So that's ongoing. I'll jump over Clatskanie Mountain, what's going on up there. Nothing new on Washington State Patrol as of yet. However, the University of Oregon is at work, working on installing their seismometer up there, working with other divisions that do locates for utilities up there, but they're chomping at the bit to start turning dirt. So I think as the weather improves, that will be moving forward. Meisner site improvements. We had a dead battery with that generator that has been replaced. We're still waiting on the ITBs, the intend to bid documents, to be published. Working with the state of Oregon on. Now I've got it logged in, so we have an account with Oregon Buys, and now I'm in school on how to use the system. Thumbs up on that. Let's see. Emergency microwave repair replacement follow-up. Had meetings within the last 2 weeks with M&I. All that equipment is working between Clatskanie and Columbia Heights. It's just we want the new antennas and the new waveguides, and we are waiting on the shipment of equipment. There is a backlog, and we have these things called Juniper routers. That is our holdup right now. There's a backlog, again, supply chain and whatever the issues are globally. We're waiting on those routers to be provided. We don't have an estimate, but they said it could be months. So that's okay. We're still operating on our existing antennas and waveguides. We just want it all new when that equipment is available. So I'll keep you posted on that. Tow service contracts, it's in the hands of the county. We did exchange some information just since our last meeting, clarifying with the sheriff's office and Mike Russell on current contract languages and practices. So it looks like there is forward movement continuing on that. Ambulance service area. again, while we don't play a huge role in that, it's apparent in listening to the Fire Defense Board that the county has either hired or is in the process of hiring a third-party consultant to assist with the ASA. I applaud the county in doing that. It has prompted the fire and EMS providers to get really engaged. And so they've been working with us. This is one part where we do have a play in this, is the mapping boundaries for those ASAs. And if you recall, that's been one of our struggles over the last actually 2 years, trying to get the ASA providers to work with us and their neighboring jurisdictions to clarify and agree formally on ASA boundaries. We don't have a whole lot of leverage in that. We're just the keepers of the data. And so with the counties moving forward with a consultant, that has apparently prodded the ASA providers to step up. And so we are working with them, updating their maps and answering questions. So that's good. We will continue to support the providers and the county on the new ASA plan. Corey Hill vandalism, we're still waiting. Again, this is I don't even know how to describe it. Just whatever the supply chain thing is, we're trying to get that transfer switch shipped to us. And that's really all we're waiting for. The approval from last month's meeting with the board for the fencing, that fencing company has been notified and awarded, and they are ordering product. And I'll keep you posted as that upgrade to the fencing takes place. Going to go backwards. Next gen radio system. So I was kind of looking forward to today and meeting with you as a group to hopefully engage in what direction or instructions you have for me and or staff to help you formalize a position or answer questions as we move forward on what's the next step.
Well, I will say that I was forced to attend by Zoom due to some health issues at the time, the meeting on February 1st, I think it was, and I could hear most things. It wasn't optimal not being there in person, and that, I don't blame the technology for that. That's just should have been there. It feels like we have maybe even more questions now, and I'm sure you might be feeling some of that as well, Mike. But for those that were actually there in attendance and maybe got to do some after conversations, if anything you want to add to what we learned and what we think we know now?
Well, from my perspective, kind of being the master of the ceremonies in the three-ring circus, I think my perspective, talking to you as individuals and then having sidebar conversations with our users, is that there is no clear one solution across the board. From the user's perspective, it's a diverse opinion. There are entities that are interested in staying on VHF. There are entities interested in moving to a shared system on the 800, and then there's a group of folks who want us to own and operate a 700 system. So own and operate a VHF, own and operate 700, or partner with one of the two 800 systems. And that's still consistent from the user's perspective and my take on listening to you as board members individually. So, and I don't know how to get to the next step. What is it that will convince or allow you to be comfortable making a decision? And what would that be? If we want to stay as an owner-operator, that's great. The logical next step would be an RFP. We can certainly do that. My counsel to everyone, both users and the board, is if we just put an RFP out saying we want to replace our public safety radio system, but we are not specific as to the spectrum, VHF 700, 800, I believe what we will get is exactly what we got with the RFI. We will get apples and oranges. So that being said, we could do multiple RFPs in each band. That's just confusing, time consuming, expensive for everyone. And or the board make a decision on which spectrum they want to stay in or go to, and then we can develop an RFP from there. But how do I help you feel comfortable even selecting the spectrum band? I'm not sure. So I'm looking for your guidance and or quest, and I will certainly follow through on that.
John, I have a couple thoughts to share on this. And I've already talked to Mike about this. He knows where my thoughts are. I think it's obvious that we cannot move forward until we have a majority of the user group in supporting of which system is to be chosen. Preferably, it'd be nice to have unanimous buy-in, but I'd say, we need to at least have a majority, if not close to, 90%, if we're going to try to get something to pass for the dollar value. I think we're a long way from there. One of my biggest concerns right now is the status and the age of our current system. If I could ask you just real quick to answer a question here, Mike. Radio-wise, how many of our parts roughly are we looking at eBay now to source if we were to have to repair versus getting from a vendor?
Right. Well, I think, as you know, we're incrementally upgrading the microwave system. So I feel pretty good about that. And we're going to continue doing that regardless of what spectrum we go to. We have those balls in motion right now. The Motorola equipment, the transmitters and receivers, are old, and where Day Wireless and or Motorola is sourcing replacements, I actually have never asked them. Are they getting them from surplus, which is my guess. They've never mentioned that they're going to a third tier provider, eBay and the such, but I can certainly ask that question.
Thanks. I'll get back on the rails here, because my concern is, I know when the system was built, it didn't originally was spec'd for what was currently modern first gen for radios at the time, which I believe were the Quantars. Mm-hmm. And to save money, so more site work could be worked, that was downgraded to an older generation, which I believe are the MTRs, which then we had to spend a bunch of money to upgrade to have the Quantar features. But that's second gen, I think, past service life, end of life equipment.
Yes.
And one of my biggest concerns is, like Mike said, I know we're doing good keeping the microwave up and running because we knew no matter what we had to do that. But by the time we try to get unanimous buy-in in what we want to do, and for the dollar value that we need to go out and ask and build time, I'm just concerned if our current VHF system is going to remain stable and in operation through that whole time. I guess what I'm kind of getting in a roundabout way of saying is I'm wondering if we're maybe coming to a point where we need to do a real heavy analysis of our current system, are parts available? If not, do we need to look at doing a little bit of a refresh or upgrade of our VHF to make sure it is stable and serviceable, which will give us time, as much as I don't want to say kicking a can down the road, but continue this current radio process we're going through as a long-range plan for a future replacement. Only because, like I said, is I don't think we have enough information. I don't think our end users, maybe even board members, feel confident making a decision, whether it's going to be $3 million or $30 million or $10 million. I think we're a long ways from there. And I just don't want to make sure what we have will work for our end users until we can get there. If that makes sense. Sorry, I rambled on a little bit about that, but I hope that makes sense to you guys.
Mr. Chair, I have some comments on that, and I don't necessarily disagree with Rob, but I do have to say that, first of all, we've got to remind ourselves that when we upgraded our radio system 22 years ago, it was a huge improvement on what we had before. And probably anything that we do today is going to be a huge improvement over what we have right now. I think that the meeting on February 1st exemplified to me that there's no clear answer. As I mentioned to Mike and Rob and Nancy the other day in a personnel committee meeting, nobody has been able to tell us that switching to 7-800 either in an owned system or 7-800 in a lease system or anything else is going to save one life a year or 10 lives a year, or is absolutely without a doubt going to make our firefighters and police folks and our paramedics safer because of this, that, or the other thing. Because what muddies the water for me, as if somebody were able to walk a camera into the boardroom, probably you'd see my cartoonish scribblings on the blackboard from a week or so ago. VHF is like the old reliable Model T. It plugs along, it goes, and radio waves work kind of down in canyons, and they don't work great, but they work. And you can always hear CCOM. They may not always be able to hear you, and all of that stuff. And then you've got the 7-800, and I've used both systems in my previous career. You have the 7-800 system where it's clear and concise and bright and cheerful, and you've got great communication back and forth. But you kind of have to be directly line of sight because it doesn't work so well down in canyons and behind trees and hills and stuff like that. Well, for folks that maybe haven't paid a little bit of attention, I know that's no one in this room, we have hills and trees and canyons and creek beds and stuff here unless you're along Highway 30. And so I haven't heard a bit of compelling news that tells me we're better off spending $30 million for any 7 or 800 project versus spending $11 or $12 million to get us the newest, best VHF system that's available out there. And here's the other thing, and I'm not diving on the sword on this. I'm just saying, I personally like buying the highest quality product. I buy a car and I make it pay me back. I don't trade things and change things because I think I research things and buy what's best for the needs as best as I can determine. Right now, nobody has been able to convince me that it's worth an additional $20 million to go to a 7-800 system, whether it's either owned or partnered with WACA or Vancouver. I just, so I guess if you were forcing me into a vote today, I would be voting for an upgraded VHF system that has some known reliability in our county. Because in an after-meeting conversation that I had with our consultants the day of our meeting out at the fairgrounds, I said, tell me, which in our county, in this place, which is the best? Which is going to save lives? Which is going to make this work? And they said, I can't tell you that. And those are the professionals. And then I said to myself, okay, well, if I can't be told that, I certainly can't tell our constituents that. And it's going to be a hell of a lot easier for me to go out there and try to sell an $11 or $12 million radio bond than it is, because guess what? whatever our bond is countywide also impacts every other one of the special districts that some of us otherwise belong to as well, whether it's a fire district or the port or anybody else. Down the line, if we're paying off a $10 million bond is one thing. If we're trying to pay off a $30 million bond, that's going to make a difference as to whether a voter in Clatskanie votes for a school bond or something else elsewhere in the county. That's an obligation that we have put in front of our voters. And I'm telling you, guys, gals, if somebody were to stand here and say, and be able to prove it, that spending that extra $20 million is truly going to get the job done better and save lives and make people safer and absolutely always work, I'd be out on the front end of this thing. The problem is nobody seems to be able to do that. And the other thing is, in talking to those gentlemen that were at our meeting that day, I said, what happens if we put in a 7-800 system and we get all the infrastructure, we put in $30 million worth of stuff, and we turn on the switch and all of a sudden determine that there's 3 or 4 areas around the county that are getting underserved. And they said, well, you just start putting in new towers. You identify those dead spots and this, that, and the other thing, and so you just start dropping $1 million bills wherever it takes to cover those things. Well, there again, right now with VHF, we at least have a known quantity. We know that it has the limitations of VHF, no doubt about it. But as far as I'm concerned, the 7-800 stuff is a completely unknown quantity in our county, in our geography, and I'm not sure that I certainly can't get there today. I'm not saying that I can't ever get there. I'm just saying I can't get there today. And I am going to Rob's point about do we go through and do a heavy duty paint job on our existing system to make it better for a period of time. Maybe that's not a terrible idea. I hate throwing good money after a 22-year-old system, but maybe that's the best choice. I don't know, but and I honest to God, Mike, don't know how we're going to get there. We've put out the RFI. We've goofed around with that for 3 years. We've got our professionals. We've talked to people. We've talked to our users. And quite frankly, there are certainly users out there that just like the sex appeal of something new, flashy, and what looks good on YouTube videos. But there's, again, no data that absolutely demonstrates what the best system would be, in my mind, at least so far, for Columbia County. So that's my analysis, and I know that doesn't get us any closer, but irregardless, thank you, Mr. Chair, for the consideration.
That's great stuff, Henry. I'm glad you got a chance to talk to folks after that meeting too, and to get that insight. Because I met with Tyler Miller and had a really good conversation with him, and he presented some ideas, some other agencies that have done some similar sized agencies, and some information that could be valuable for us that will definitely be shared. But I think there's just no clear answer at this point, which is kind of frustrating. I don't blame anybody for it, Mike. It's just, it kind of is what it is. And I mean, is it as simple as putting it to a vote of the advisory committee? Because it sounds like we've got 2 factions potentially, or 3 even, and that, would they be happy with the majority vote of the committee?
Well, I'm making notes here, and my takeaway is there's a couple things. So that's a good idea. I can certainly talk to Mike Russell, who's chair of the advisory, and kind of brainstorm with him to put the question to the users and trying to get some kind of definitive answer that I can bring back to you. 2, I hear Rob, and I'm kind of formulating a plan with Motorola / Day Wireless about the current parts and components of our current system and where we are, and availability of spares and or the likelihood, what would it take to just upgrade upgrade those certain components? I don't know. It's easy to ask questions, and that's what I'm happy to do.
And Sean, the quirky thing about mine is mine has a couple branches out there, is whether we just maybe, replace antennas that are past X years old that might have degraded service. The radios themselves potentially. So a little refresh of exactly what we have. Or, do we get info from our users to verify where our biggest issues are and say, okay, where do we need to add those remote receivers? Whether it be back to the Chapman area again is one of them, as an example. And I'm not familiar with where exactly the poor spots are in the rest of the county to reference those. But, find out if there's a couple of those that need a little bit of tweaking. Or because as site rental fees went up when the feds and the DNR way back several years ago, increased their rates to market value, and we moved for cost savings purposes, did that end up causing such a system degradation that we need to look at maybe moving back to some other sites that did have the optimal better service performance to meet what the users need for now in the short term, while we still work on potentially this 10 or 15 year out. Is the county going to grow enough to support and need a 700 or 800 type system? So unfortunately, I'm kind of muddying the waters even a little bit more.
Well, just my perspective, I think that's adding to what's needed is education. Again, it's just another check on the box. We need this kind of information, and we can get that stuff. So that gives me something to run with, at least.
I think it's also important to note that I don't think we need to give the advisory committee any indication that any kind of a vote from them is going to tell this board what decision to make. The bottom line is we still have a somewhere between 0 and 30, maybe $30+ million delta to fix with whatever the decision is, and we're going to have to make the best decision not only for the radio service but financially for the district as well.
Fair enough. Sounds good. Bruce or Shelley, any thoughts?
I guess my only question and concern with all of this is, I'm kind of new to all of this, so I'm not as familiar with it, but I know that being from Vernonia, there used to be many dead spots to where there wasn't good communication, and whatever system we go with, is that going to fix some of the issues that these folks have out here?
That is the multi-million-dollar question.
Right, because whatever St. Helens, Scappoose, and that side of the hill decides to works for them may not work at all over here. So that's a concern for me.
Yeah, fair enough. It looks like Bruce had dropped off. Oh no, Bruce, you're there. Sorry. Any thoughts, Bruce? Like you muted.
Can you hear me now?
There you are.
There we go. What I was saying is I really appreciate what Rob and Henry had to say, because I agree with a lot with what they're saying. And it's right now, I would not vote. I wouldn't get a yes vote out of me. I really want to know what our end users want, and then financially we need to know what we can and cannot do, because exactly what Henry says, what we do does affect a lot of other things in this county. So we have to do our due diligence, and to be honest with you, I don't think just a yes vote, get it through and buy the biggest, shiniest things, the way to go.
All right, Mike, do you have, sounds like you took some notes, have a little bit of guidance there on some more information?
Yep. I can run with these two things, and I'll report back to you next month.
All right.
Sean, I'm not muted. I was wondering if with that information, if Mike could get another clarification thing. Since you're going to be talking with vendors, my concern is also just finding out whether sticking with analog VHF versus going P25 digital VHF. Because my main concern is if we kind of do a refresh, is all the places throughout the county where we have timing overlap issues and multipath issues, where it sounds a little garbly on VHF analog, does that mean all the ones and zeros will be corrupted and would end up being a dead zero service in digital? I think that's just another little piece of information would be nice to know.
Great question.
Because if we just stick with our current system as is, I'm just concerned that the interference that it causes amongst itself and other intermod issues might end up making a P25 digital option unusable for us.
I've added that to my notepad.
And then when we're done with this, Sean, I'll just have two other questions.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to rush this conversation. It's really, really meaty stuff. So just give everybody a chance if they have anything else to add or say before we move away from it. A lot of good stuff brought up there for sure. Okay. Well, let's move on then. Does what you have to say, Rob, related to? You want to say it now, or?
Yeah, it was old business related.
Okay.
When Mike mentioned Dixie Mountain, just to clarify, are we still waiting for some sign-offs from them? Because you said they're aware that we've paused things, or are they just waiting to find out exact frequencies again, type of deal, that they have a final sign-off?
It's a two-parter. So what they're looking for is architectural drawings, I mean literally, of the 2-post or 4-post rack, the equipment that will go in that rack. They already have the frequencies. They're looking for drawings and then their own approval. And what I'm learning, even just since we last met last month, is it's clear that they have a change of people who were in charge of that site and this region. And so I think we're just really helping them, those new folks, get educated of where we've been, where we are, and what we want to accomplish. That's their side. From our side, I feel compelled to still wait until we know what we are doing, because we're going to make an investment. If we choose to go to Dixie, we are going to make an expensive investment, mostly in the microwave component. That's where the big money is. Everything else is relatively inexpensive, right? But I don't want to make a large, $300,000 investment, and then we decide to go a different direction on radio, and then could we repurpose the equipment? Sure, yes, but that's more money too. So just trying to be prudent.
Perfect. I just know that it's been a long, painful process with them for every step of the way. And so it sounds like no matter what, we'd still be waiting for more sign-offs from them.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, any other, we have the SDAO conferences on old business here.
It is, and that really is just a follow-up. The conference took place earlier this month, yes, and what we're looking for from the district's perspective is, because it was remote, we don't know who of you as a board attended, how much you attended. Do you need additional access to recordings, and or can we provide you any service via SDAO and the conference moving forward? So
Yeah, I attended, and again, the second year in a row with the virtual thing. It's just tough. I was active Thursday and Friday, and Saturday just didn't work for me. But the nice thing is, and there's good stuff there. Obviously, is they're making it available, as you said, Mike, for a period of a couple of months or something. So anybody can, I think, get back on there and do some of the sessions, which I highly recommend. I always learn something, whether it's at a board or staff level. There's good stuff in there. So, but I really miss the in-person. There's something about being, sitting in a room and facing somebody, and it's more engaged. When virtual, a lot of cameras are off, and if you're in your office, you're distracted oftentimes. So,
Amen.
That's my 2 cents on it.
Totally agree.
I got into a couple of different sessions, and then there was one that I wanted to get in and participate in, and it wouldn't let me in. So I didn't know if there was too many participants or what it was. It just kept bringing up a message that, I don't remember what it said, but it was just wouldn't, I was there, I was logged in and everything, but it wouldn't let me in that session. But I don't know if anybody had that kind of trouble, but
I did. Yeah, I think that was a Friday session for me that I had that issue. Challenges of the technology.
Indeed.
Anybody else thoughts? SDAO. We can move on.
Is there a place that we can find the link to go into some of that stuff? So that we can.
The site we can get you, Shelley, the login information for SDAO. Yes.
Yeah, our internet was down the entire time that was going on, so I didn't do any of it. But I would like to.
Okay.
So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, there's good stuff on there. I'm sure you saw the agenda. Board member roles and responsibilities is always a good one. I've done that as a refresher over time too, since I've been going to these now for 7 years, I think. Like I said, it's good stuff. I mean, not just for new board members, but for long timers as well. So. All right. New business. What do we got?
New business director's update. So the only thing that I had to share is Henry mentioned last week we did meet with the personnel committee regarding union negotiations, which are ongoing. In fact, we're scheduled for tomorrow. The personnel committee met with us, and it was just a very high-level conversation about where we are, some initial asks that are fiscally important to the district. Nancy continues to do the homework on those to get the impacts back to the personnel committee and get their temperature on those things. On that point, wondering if Rob and Henry, we could schedule our next meeting. It certainly can be done remotely, that's not a problem, but we would like to get that on the calendar to keep us rolling forward. If you would entertain that now, I'd appreciate that. Wondering what your next week looks like.
I have some time on Monday morning, and I have a few openings throughout the day on Tuesday.
Mr. Anderson, what's your schedule look like?
You're muted, Rob.
Thank you, Sean. I am on day 2 of my shift on Monday, so Tuesday would be better. And for me, just to be safe, for late call sake, I would say no earlier than 9, preferably after 10.
I'm good anywhere between 10 and noon.
Should we say 10:30?
Shoot. My calendar just updated and I see this Monday's meeting that was canceled for work got scheduled for Tuesday. And that one's at 8:30. So, would 11 work for you, Henry? If an hour is close enough?
Yeah, that's fine.
Mike?
Okay. I will send an invite. Thank you. Getting back to the meeting here, so we'll follow up with you as we move forward through with the personnel committee. Tomorrow, we will be having a little hootenanny here a little bit for Laura, and we'll be recognizing and acknowledging the contributions and service that she has provided for the district. We're guesstimating around 11 a.m. If you had anything you wanted to share or stop by, that would certainly be appreciated. Other than that, Mr. Chair, I don't have any other new business or anything further in my report to share today.
Okay. Do we have any agenda items that we'd like to have added to the March 24th meeting? All right. Status quo. Go
His
ahead.
question is, Mike. Yeah, I'm unmuted again.
No.
Do we need to have executive session pending for next month? That way to make sure the full board is on board where we're at with negotiations within the parameters. Because the one thing we're doing now is this is where we want to operate within as a personnel committee. I just think we haven't pushed that out to the whole board yet to kind of know where we're at out here and where we're trying to get to.
Right, and that makes total sense. We can put a placeholder in there for that. We'll have certainly our homework done fiscal-wise for our meeting next week. So, and that'd probably be perfect timing to bring the rest of the board up to date. Great. We'll put that on the agenda, Sean.
Okay. Other business member comments. Mr. Heimler, would you like to start?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to say thanks to all of our users and folks from the public that showed up at our radio briefing meeting earlier this month. That I have to say that I was really hoping for an epiphany and was disappointed a little bit when I didn't get it, but then I realized I should have had my expectations dialed down some to start with. Anyway, thanks to staff and everybody who put that together and attended the fair board and stuff for making the pavilion available so we could actually have a face-to-face meeting in appropriately spaced area there. So I think that's it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson.
Segueing off of Henry there, it's like, unfortunately, since I was at home with the vid, was not able to attend that presentation in person. Did do it virtual. I do think it was good background information there. Try to get everyone up to speed and on the same level. And as it is like I said, working through this, where everyone is learning little bits about different parts and we're working on that knowledge base. So it may be a slow thing, but hopefully we're working on making a knowledgeable decision here as well as we can, educated one, and Mike is still working on getting us info for that. Slowly making progress. Maybe not in action, but in information so we can make an educated, reasonable, prudent decision. I may not be able to show up there for Laura's things. I'd like to throw kudos out there and thank her for her hard work and helping us through our time as she came on board. Is greatly appreciated and was happy with the performance that we got from her, and she will be missed.
Noted. Thank you.
Shelley, are you ready?
Yep, I'd just like to apologize for my late arrival. I was driving the bus this morning and of course we had snow, so it is what it is. Anyway, I didn't attend the other meeting. It's been a little crazy with the way schools run this year, so. Anyway, that's all I got. Hopefully Laura enjoys her next adventure.
Thanks for moving the kids around. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
Mr. Holsey.
I don't have anything, thank you.
All right, I will just add, again, very meaty stuff that we're dealing with here, and we are not experts, and we're only as good as the information that is presented to us, and we're often just moving data around, and oftentimes we're just missing little pieces of data here and there to actually complete a picture. So as we get more information and inputs, I think it's good that we're taking, being very diligent about this, I guess, is what I'm really happy to say. I mean, hopefully nothing happens, the world doesn't collapse before we get to make any changes, and we can utilize the current system until we get a viable solution that's good financially for the district and for all the users. Definitely will miss Laura, appreciate her efforts here, and echo that I wish her the best on her next adventure. And I appreciate all the staff and all the hard work. Small staffs, we wear a lot of hats and get a lot of things done. So I definitely appreciate each and every one of the staff as well. And I also appreciated my time sitting with Tyler Miller a couple of weeks back. And I think he's got some interesting information that could be good and useful as we try to put things together and weigh things. So he's having a session, I believe it's March 3rd. Let me pull it up on my calendar here since we're here. March 3rd, Thursday, March 3rd at 2 p.m. at the Scappoose Council Chambers. He's got information, map overlays, and some things that would be good for a couple of us to look at. I know I want to look at that again with him and see some of the things he has. Again, another bit of information to put in our in our thinking caps as we try to make this big decision. So I have nothing further, and with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.